Hey guys, J77 here doing another flashback review, and the flashback review I'm going to be talking about is The Godfather Part 3, the conclusion of the Godfather series in this flashback review. And the third installment, uh, boy, this movie has an interesting history. This film came out in 1989. It was set to be the final chapter in the Godfather series. It was once again directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and it was set to be originally named The Death of Michael Corleone. But because of the title was so obvious that he was going to die in this movie, they actually not only changed the premise a little bit, but they actually changed it back to the Godfather's movie. Unlike the other two Godfather films, this movie went strictly on screenplay. This was actually a standalone movie that had the blessing of Mario, of the author of the Godfather's book, but didn't have much of the literary say. This film pretty much had a screenplay and a screenplay on it. That's what I'm trying to say, and it definitely shows. It really does. I might want to say that this movie was pretty much more about redemption than anything else. This film was more about Michael wanting to move away from, the dark life of being in the underworld. He basically just wanted to settle down, be close with his family, and basically just pretty much retire, just get away from it. Unfortunately, his past, as well as people who he's surrounded with, seem to not take that kindly. They look at some of his business move as an attempt to hoard all the fortunes for himself. Some people want him out because they believe that he is still a powerhouse threat. People close to him, he can't even trust. And throughout this movie, it's shown to light of just how much greed and power is in the underworld. The film starts out again in a party. I don't know what it is about these Godfather movies, but they always throw in this big gathering. That seemed to be the signature of these movies. And pretty much he has most of his family's there. His daughter's there. His son is there, but not in the most warm spirit. And he also has his nephew, who is Sonny's son. And pretty much you can tell by just by his presence that he pretty much has every trait of not only Sonny, which is his handsome looks, but he also has his kindness of Fredo, and he even has a little bit of Michael. He has pretty much every generation of his family, his uncles, his relatives in him, and it shows a lot. And that's because I think Andy Garcia was very, very good in this movie. He really, really brought to light this character. Apparently, he's been going through some trouble with Fontaine. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of rift between him and Mike Corleone is trying to calm him down. He's trying to not let him explode. Even despite the fact that his nephew is telling him that this Fontaine character is talking behind his back. Apparently, Michael is saying, okay, look, let's make peace and everything else, but apparently that was not his nephew's forte. He bit him, basically making threats to take him out, and pretty much Michael, says no, but in a way that pretty much, was in a calm state. Knowing his nephew can get into a whole lot of trouble, he keeps him close by. He keeps them, near where he keep an eye on him. And in doing so, all the stuff happens. His attempt on his life happened in his apartment. We had the infamous controversial shootout scene, which got my movie theater, at least one of my movie theaters, closed down because of that. It's a long story, believe me. I still don't understand it to this day. But the infamous helicopter scene where they shot up the hotel room. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. And it all revolves around a deal that Michael Corleone had done with the Cardinal. Apparently, he got into some financial trouble. He needed some money. He sold a very, very, very steep property to him. Apparently, that's not falling too well with some of his partners, especially some of his people who believe that he is trying to muscle out of some arrangements. However, that's not really Michael's intention. He is actually trying to keep it legit. He's trying to keep it clean. He's trying to keep it for his children, which is his daughter and his son. Now, his son made it very clear from the get-go he was no part of that. He doesn't want nothing to do with his business, and this is largely because of the incident too. He somehow found out, or at least he suspects, that his father have killed Fredo. They never really got into the subject. This was brought up by his ex-wife now, Kay, which is played again by Diane Keaton. And although in this scene, which we all know he did, but although in this scene he didn't really confess to arranging the murder of his own brother, you can pretty much tell that it did bother him, and it did pretty much bring back some things he was trying so desperately hard to bury, which often now keeps popping up every now and then in the scene. During this first act, pretty much he has suffered a diabetic attack that lands him in the hospital, which opens the door for his nephew to make a hit, and which he did in the most craziest ways. This was happened during a parade. I forgot the name of the parade. I did ask a friend of mine about it. He told me what it was, but it just slipped my mind. But in this parade, he pretty much set up Fontaine, took out his men, and then he has him taking him out, disguised as a policeman riding a horse. This did not this did not vote well for Michael. Michael was not very happy about this. He had other arrangements to figure out who it was, and because of his nephew's hothead, want to get revenge now instead of thinking later, it pretty much ruined that. But Mike, pretty much recovered slowly, and he realized that he needs to figure out who the hell wants him out of the way, who the hell wants to take over the family business. He needs to do this fast because now he's in, I think, Venice to be at his son's premiere performance in opera. And by doing this, he pretty much arranged, he pretty much knew who it was by that last encounter, last meeting, but he wanted to make sure that was the one of the people, because there was other people involved. So he asked his nephew to basically arrange that he's not happy with them, that he wished to join a different family, and by doing that, he goes by a person who's a longtime family friend to tell him this. There's two reasons behind this, of course. There's his love interest with his daughter, which he's not approving because not only they're cousins, but he also knows his nephew's a very dangerous man. Even his son tells his sister he's very dangerous. And this pretty much left a bit of a friction. Of course, that was quickly resolved once he became power because he made him promise not to see his daughter again, which, and then he did try to keep that promise. But the ending pretty much shattered that situation real quickly. Probably one of the saddest endings because I didn't really want that to go down. I actually knew that Michael was pretty much going to die somehow, but I did not expect one of his own children to go down. So yeah, in case you didn't see it, that's a spoiler. But it turns out there's a whole lot of stuff going on. A lot of the old family members have pretty much died out. He tried to confess his sins to a priest, and that didn't seem to vote too well because the priest, even he said that what he did was horrible. And basically throughout this film, even to the very end, he really didn't want to do it anymore. He really didn't want to become the Don anymore. He was pretty much worn out. And in the end, even though he survived the latest assassination attack, it cost him his daughter. That lifestyle cost him one of his own daughters, and he felt that more than anything else. And the end pretty much ended with him dying alone. He died alone, and pretty much in a yard somewhere, and he just basically fell out and died. Which It makes sense, but I thought he was going to be more dramatic. But the way this movie was pacing and the way the movie was going, I figured, yeah, it seems right. Now let's get on to the things about this film that seem to piss off a lot of people. A lot of people who are diehard fans of The Godfather 1 and 2 pretty much did not like this movie. There was a lot of people who hated this movie. This film got parodied, even by some of the good critics. Even those who liked the film pretty much backtrack and say, yeah, it was not one of the great films. I felt this film had an unfair rap, and I tell you why. Yeah, this film is not the greatest Godfather film, but I think this film was a closing chapter. It wanted to put a the final nail in the coffin of everything in the series that went from 1 to 2 and to now. This was more about redemption. It wasn't about shoot 'em up, kill as many gang members you can. Michael really wanted to try and, basically retire away from the business, a business that just won't let him go. This is probably one of the most memorable lines in that film. Just when I thought it was out, they dragged me back in, and they dragged him back in, even though he didn't want to be there anymore. We saw again a passing of the guard. We had Vito, which originally was supposed to be Sonny, but when Sonny died, it came Michael, and Michael did it bent on revenge. I mean, the whole first two movies was pretty much Michael getting revenge and planning his plot against the people who wanted to get him. In this one, he just didn't want to do it anymore. He just wanted to stay away, and I don't think the organized the organized crime, the people who was around it, didn't seem to accept it. It was almost in denial, really, because they really, one, they didn't want him to leave because he was a great businessman, and two, they wasn't buying that he was leaving because he was such a vicious guy. He really was, and especially in the last in this time part 2, where they pretty much knew that he killed his brother. I mean, you have to have cold ice blood on your veins to do that, and that's the thing about Michael. He never had the heart of his father, and it was shown in 2. And this one, it was kind of odd. It was kind of weird that you hear this this strong guy, and all of a sudden he's not even close to what he was when he was on his highest power. I think that was the thing people wasn't accepting. I liked the first half. I really did. I thought the first half was very fast paced. It got us, it got me interested from that start right up to when they got into Venice. I was very, very impressed by the acting. The acting was superb. I actually loved it. I liked the cinematography and the chemistry. It was the second half where I started to lose interest. It was kind of funny because I never thought I would say the second half was worse than the first half in the Godfather film. But no, once Fontaine's death was pretty much planned out and he was out of picture, the film started to go slower and slower and slower, where I'm like, there's really nothing happening here. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of plotting, there's a lot of planning, but it's done in very slow, detailed pace. It really, I mean, even Godfather 2, as paced as they managed to still keep my interest from both Act 1 and Act 2. This one, it didn't do it for me. It really didn't. The second half, right up to the point where you had the climatic finish, did I really enjoy the second half to all that much. And I think that was the main problem. The second half was just long and dragging, and I think people was not, was falling out of it, the film. I also felt that people were expecting like a climactic finish where, his family is going to go all out against the other family. And that was not that type of movie. It's clearly about redemption. It's clearly about, passing the guard, and that was pretty much all I got from the third one. I thought the directing was fine. I really did. I think that it's just that second half that bothered me. Now, I know a lot of people ask me this, and I know a lot of people mention this, and that is the casting of Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. I didn't have a problem with her in this film. She did okay, what it's worth. It wasn't that she was terrible. I know people say that was an awful mistake. Look, Winona Ryder was supposed to be in this movie. He had that character with Winona Ryder in mind, and she backed away from the film. I think she really wanted to do Dracula more so than the Godfather film, and she ended up doing Dracula. So I think that it was just a last minute thing. I think there really wasn't no time for casting, and I think he cast her. But if you ask me, she did a terrible job. I think she did fine. I didn't think she was great, but I thought she was okay. She didn't, it wasn't non-factor to me. She was good enough to move along the film. On top of that, everybody else was fine. I thought Andy Garcia really showed me something with this film. He really did. I actually thought he was very, very. His character was well planned. You really saw him being the next Godfather. You saw him have every trait of the family, and you also saw how he adapted. The only problem I think that I had with his character is that once he became the Godfather, he started acting like what Michael would act like when he first got it. And the only reason why I had a problem is the movie The Godfather 1, he didn't just right away became the Godfather. It was years that passed. There was years where his father was training him. There was years of him being experienced between, him coming from the Navy, coming back from the armed forces, to him, basically, being in exile and, having to witness his wife die. Getting that anger bill of revenge for him to take over that family, and most importantly, having his father pretty much teach him how to use your head before attacking. And I never once got that from Michael. I never felt that Michael actually trained him. Yeah, he gave him advice, but it wasn't like, okay, this is like on the job training kind of stuff. I never once felt that he really did, I never was convinced he made that transition the way Michael did in the first Godfather. And that was the thing that I had a bit of a problem with. Another thing I had a problem with this movie, and it's not the movie that I'm going to be discussing about it. It's the fact that how this film was widely praised by the critics and by the awards ceremonies. This film was nominated for Best Picture. This is not Best Picture quality at all. That was the one time I'm looking at this the Academy. I'm saying, are you serious? I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually like the film, but this film ain't Best Picture quality. It's not even close to even being a Golden Globe quality. I mean, if you want to nominate Andy Garcia, I have no problem. You want to even nominate, Al Pacino, who did a good job in this film? I have no problem with that too. But to say this film had, a superb directing and a great screenplay, and as well as being the best director, I don't think so. I'm not buying into that. I can't comprehend they actually made that film a Best Picture category, and largely because if you look at the three Godfather films, everybody can talk about the original Godfather. Everybody can tell you how much of a classic, because it had a very strong staying power, more so than even 2 had. And 2 won an Academy Award for Best Picture. But even 2 has something where you can say, yeah, these performances were great, these performances were perfect, it was flawless. I can't say that with Godfather 3. There's a lot of flaws in this movie, and that largely comes by the second half, and how the pacing just seemed to almost slow down to a crawl. And it only picked back up during the last third of the film, and that was pretty much my deciding factor of this rating. So to sit here and say, yeah, this was a great, film worth it for Best Picture. Not even the critics who gave it good rating, and there was a lot of critics that gave it a good rating, believe this was a great movie. It's not a great movie. It's not a Best Picture category, and I always had that sort of resentment for that reason, because there was a lot of good films that came out, a lot of great films that came out in 1989. You had Steel Magnolias, you had Driving Miss Daisy, which, by the way, won for Best Picture, I believe, that year. You had Little Mermaid. You had a whole lot of other movies that were 10 times better. Some of them even get nominated, and this is the film you guys choose to put in there. And I understand it's drama. I understand it has a sentimental value. I understand Francis Ford Coppola is probably one of the better directors to do it, but let's not get it twisted. It's a good film. In my opinion, it's a good film. I give it 3 stars for that, and I'm going to keep it giving it 3 stars. But I'm not going to sit here with a straight face and tell you it's a great film. It's not. It's not even a memorable film. People watch the film, but no one talks about it. It's not. It doesn't have that classic staying power. You will not see this movie be put on the greatest films of all time because it's not. And to say that it's best picture, I just don't agree with that. But that's just my opinion, of course. I know a lot of people don't particularly care for it. I can't really say that they are at wrong because a lot of people who have talked to me about, or who I talked to them and asked them why they didn't like it, they explain what it is, and it's pretty much the same thing about the last, the second half that I had a problem with. But in any case, it was good enough. I liked the climax. I was surprised about the death of his daughter because, like I said, I expected when I heard the actually original name of the title, which pretty much gave it away. I don't know if that was the reason why he changed it up a bit, because I pretty much convinced myself that he was supposed to die on that steps, but they basically changed it like an alternate ending where his daughter died instead of him. He just died later on, years down the road. I pretty much believe that really was supposed to happen, but it did caught me a little bit off guard. It really did. Even though it pretty much did everything it can to set up, there was going to be some tension there. But I really was hoping that that in all of all it was satisfactory to me. But like I said, it's not a terrible film in my part. I don't hold it as the greatest classic of all time, but it does have some problems. It's a 3-star film. It's a good film, but it's not a great film, and it's damn sure not an Academy Award-based film at all. Which I 100% agree with everybody else when they found out this film was nominated for Best Picture. But the Academy Awards, they have done crazier things before, so so be it. It didn't win, so I guess I can live with that. But what are your opinion about this film? Have you seen The Godfathers 1, 2, and 3? Did you like The Godfather 1, 2, and 3? And more importantly, give me your greatest Godfather moments. I'd actually like to know what was the best scene in any of the Godfather films. It don't have to be 3, it doesn't have to be 2, it doesn't have to be 1. It could be any of them. Give me a list and share with me. I'd like to know. Until then, I will continue on with the organized crime series. I'm not done with that yet. I am still going to be doing another film, and the film is an Al Pacino film. You pretty much know what that is. Scarface. I'll give you my feelings on this because Scarface definitely has an interesting history to talk about. But until then, this is J77 saying you guys take care.